Alright, boys, we are moving on to the parts that we have not covered in our lesson. So, starting from this video on, I'm going to slow down a little bit, and that means the video will be a little bit longer. So, I ask you to be patient and really watch the videos in details, okay? Now, for this video, and probably the next 2 videos, we are going to break down the per unit tax as the one of the most important market intervention method of the government. Okay, now first of all, let's start with the basics. What is per unit tax? Okay, it is a tax of the same amount. Here, I should written more clearly. The same amount of tax per unit. OK, imposed 嗱，小心啲啊，係 on the producer。我哋嘅 syllabus in our syllabus we are teaching the tax imposed on producer, meaning the supply curve. OK, for each unit of product sold. OK， 記住啊，係唔係一筆過嘅 ？OK, each unit, for example, pay $2. For example, just as an example. OK， 好嘛？好啦， now so what is the objective of a per unit tax? OK, in fact, let's think about one of the most important example in Hong Kong. We call it the tobacco tax. 好啦，香港做乜要收煙草稅啊？ Basically, you want to reduce the quantity. 其實講咁多嘢，咪就係想佢唔好買，唔好做咁多咋嘛。Okay, but in the same process, you can also get money. Okay, 好嘛？嗱，今次唔同喎。Remember, right? In the price control, demand supply does not change, right? In quota, we have a kinked supply curve, right? Now this time, let's talk about demand and supply. Remember, demand remains unchanged for one good reason. It is on the producer. While for the supply, since it is adding a tax, basically think of it as production cost. 嗱，其實唔啱嘅呢個諗法，不過你可以當係 the production cost would increase, meaning supply would drop. OK, supply 咪跌咯，好嘛？ Now with a drop in supply, what does that mean? It means that price would increase. 正常啦，收稅冇理由平咗噶嘛，係嘛 ？Quantity transactor 唔好玩啊，啱啱先講係嘛 ？The objective is to decrease the quantity transactor。嗱，小心啲啦。This time you see, I've broken total revenue and total expenditure. OK， 好嘛？我哋先寫低佢。This time it's a little bit different. Total expenditure, P times Q, no problem, right? Total revenue, P times Q. Now, which is total expenditure. But remember, producer would also need to pay tax. Therefore, you need to minus the tax payment as well. 所以今次兩嚿數係唔同㗎。This time they are not the same. Okay? For P increase, Q decrease. Do you know what happens to total expenditure? No, uncertain. While total revenue, in 99% of the cases, okay, there is 1% of an extreme case. It will not change. But 99% of the cases, it's going to decrease. 其實好正常㗎。Use logic, okay? Use logic to think about it. The objective is to lower the quantity. OK， 煙草稅啦，點樣去減低佢啊 ？To make sure the tobacco producer they cannot earn that much， 係咪 ？Make sure 佢哋賺唔到錢咯。OK，if we impose a tax and somehow total revenue increase, isn't that counterintuitive？ 喂，如果收稅佢仲賺多咗，佢咪做多咗，咪戇居。OK，so by this logic, we know that total revenue would decrease. Okay, and this time there is one more player in the market. We call the government. Government would actually receive revenue. Okay, its government revenue would increase. OK， 好嘛 ？Graphically, it is also not easy。嗱，我哋慢少少啦，好嘛？嗱，遲啲會再深啲嘅。It will become harder, but for now, for the basic part, let's just stick with what we have. This is our demand one, which there would not be another demand two. OK， 好嘛？好 ，now here, S1, so this would be our P1, this would be our Q1. 好啦，嗱，小心啲。Now I know when we learn supply decreases, we used to draw left, right? But this time, when we are drawing text, no, we do not draw to the left. Instead, we draw upwards. 好啦，然之後呢個 upwards 咧做咩咧 ？We call this the per unit tax. The supply would go in this way, supply 2. And you will see here, price would increase while quantity would decrease. 嗱，未畫完㗎 ，OK 你話呢個好容易啫，阿 Sir 係嘛 ？Finally, let's draw the tax payment. 好啦，頭先我哋講咗啦 ，the distance 你見啦，點解話上啊 ？Why I'm going upwards? The vertical distance between S1 and S2. This green one, this distance is actually our per unit tax. 呢個距離咪我哋嘅 per unit tax 咯。Now we are selling Q2 amount of product. Therefore, 呢個 per unit tax 啊嘛。So total tax payment would be per unit tax times the unit of number sold, right? 於是啦，呢一嚿 ，OK, horizontal is the amount of sales, while vertical is the per unit tax. This guy, this green guy, would be the total tax payment. Or later on, we have a name, but let's leave it for the next video. Okay, this is the tax payment. OK， 呢嚿就係佢要俾嘅稅啦。OK， 好嘛？嗱 here you will see it's getting a little bit complicated. So let's break down this rectangle. OK， 頭先啦，我哋話啦 ，here we have P2, we have Q2 right here. We have a rectangle here. OK, P1 right here. 頭先我哋講咗啦，呢嚿綠色嘅 is our tax, right? 好啦 ，now P2 Q2, this whole box, this whole green box would be our total expenditure spent by the consumer. 係咪？因為佢你諗佢賣 Q2 咁多件，每件係 P2 嘅價錢，所以 the total expenditure. Now, we just mentioned, right? Total revenue is PQ minus tax, which would be this guy, the red guy in here. This time, the red guy would be our total revenue received by the producer. 兩嚿加埋係嘛 ？TR plus tax would be the total expenditure. Okay, now this part is getting a little bit difficult. So I suggest if you have any question, pause the video, replay the video until you fully understand before moving on to the table. Okay, 好嘛？自己嚟啦。Now assuming you understand what's going on, then let's see how we deal with the table form. 好啦，呢個唔講啦，講咗10萬次啦，呢個係咪啊？$3, 6 units. Now suppose the government impose a per unit tax of $2 on good Y. OK， 好嘛？好啦，而家啦 ，now they on good wine. Remember, this is imposed on producer. 嗱，記住啊，呢個係 producer 要食嘅。Okay, and also if you remember, supply curve would also be the so-called MC curve, right? Be the so-called MC curve. Now, therefore, what happens is that 嗱，第一次做，我將佢拆開佢，好嘛 ？This table, let's break it down into two tables. 嗱，我哋做一次嘅啫。Next time we are not going to go through all these trouble. Let's break it down into two tables. The first table, we have the demand schedule, which will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 好啦 10. Another one would be the supply. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 好啦 we know that since this tax is on producer, therefore this part would remain unchanged. 呢 part 係唔變㗎啦。The thing is, now we are imposing a tax such that the cost would increase, right? 好啦 think about it. Originally, at $1, you make 2 units. Now we are adding a tax. 而家要加個稅落去。Okay, let's say at 2 units, at $2. So instead of $1, you are willing to make 2 units. 以前賣1蚊你就以前賣1蚊嘅話，你賣2件。Now you need to cover the tax. 於是點啊 ？Each unit you need to sell at a higher price. 你每件都要貴2蚊咯。喂，你而家收我2蚊稅，我梗係每件都貴2蚊啦。OK， 得唔得 ？So you see, we actually have a new supply schedule. Putting them back together, it would look something like this. 而家啦，我哋將佢砌翻埋一個 table， 會變成咁嘅樣啦。QD and QS. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. OK， 唔係好夠位啊。好啦，嗱 QD doesn't change. 8, 6, 4, 2. 好啦，嗱小心啲咯。This time, $3, 2 units. 4, 6. 呢個唔知，呢個唔知。You will see the new equilibrium would actually becomes this guy. Okay, becomes $4, 4 units. Okay, 得唔得 ？So this is how you reconstruct the table. 你阿 Sir， 我係唔係要do I need to reconstruct it every single time like this? No, 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 no. If you have been paying attention, you will notice something funny going on with the QS. 其實咧就唔使咁複雜嘅。我頭先只不過做過成個 full process 啫。The simplified process will be like this: $1, 2 unit. Now there is a tax. Therefore, instead of $1, I would ask for $3. 3蚊我先肯做2件。So actually, this will become like this: 2, right? $1, no, $3. 2, 4, 6. You will see it is the QS column being shifted. 基本上將 QS 嗰行打落去啫。OK， 好嘛 ？So new equilibrium price here $4, 4 units. TE to buy 啊 ，OK， 總共使幾多啊 ？Remember P times Q, $16 they will be spending. What about total revenue to sellers? OK， 嗱呢個慢慢嚟啦。We need to minus the tax payment. This one, $16 is the total expenditure. right？ 減翻個稅 ，how much tax are we paying? Each unit we pay $2. How many units are we selling? 4 units times 4. And that would give us $8. Okay? Now immediately you see why I told you tax and subsidy are much harder than the previous 3, right? So I suggest do spend some time to pause the video and revisit this part again before we move on to the past paper. Okay, only continue until you know what's going on. All right, so I will be moving on. Now, assuming you have taken the time to study the previous 2 pages, now let's do some examples. Okay, let's do some examples. Here, we need this table for the next 2 questions. Okay, now let's mark down the original one would be this guy. Original would be $8 120 units. 原先係呢個啦。Okay, now the government imposes $3 per unit tax. Okay, 記住啦 ，per unit tax. We deal with the QS column. Okay, 望望啦。Originally $7 I would be supplying 80 units. 而家你加我3蚊 ，from $7 I need $3 more in order to supply the same amount. Therefore, this one 80原先7蚊80件，而家要加3蚊，10蚊80件。This one 80 120 160 etc. We can see that the new equilibrium becomes $10 80 units. 好啦 ，here what would be the total sales revenue？ 嗱，其實好危險㗎呢個字 ，sales revenue，OK？Because here in this question， 記住啊 ，sales revenue it can be before tax or after tax。佢應該寫清楚㗎。嗱，呢啲咪會考啲題目。That's why I ask you not to do so many CE questions because CE questions are very poorly designed。成日同你講會考唔好做咁多，咪寫得好差就出得。OK，it should have stated clearly whether this is before tax deduction or after tax deduction. Now, but let's do both to play safe. OK， 好嘛 ？Now we know total expenditure equals to P times Q. In our case, it would be 800. OK， 800蚊啦。Now, total revenue, we talk about after tax, okay, would be 800 minus total tax payment. 記住啦 each unit you pay $3. How many units are you selling? 80 units. And that should give us, this is 240, right? I think it would be 560. Okay, 560. Okay, by the process of elimination, we know that answer would be B. 嗱，但係記住啊 this is a very bad wording. Okay, very bad wording. Okay, 好嘛？嗱，唔好理啦，我哋學咗就得啦。Okay, this is how we do this question. Okay, so next 2 questions. 好啦 now here, let's see. Originally, we know this is the column. $12 50 units without market intervention. Now it says quota at 45 units. Okay, 佢話啦，原來啦，而家訂 quota. So quota, remember what happens, right? Quota cannot go above 45. Therefore, at quota, the new equilibrium would be $15. 45 units. market price $15。好啦，嗱小心啲咯。If the government uses a unit tax instead of fix the output of good X at 45 units， 嗱呢條難啊。The unit tax imposed would be now I know some of you thinking， 哦，原先12蚊，而家15蚊。The answer $3 A right？ No, this is wrong， 錯㗎。Okay, later on in the next video, when we talk about the sharing of the tax burden, you will see that in reality, the amount of tax and the amount of price increase is not quite the same， 係唔同㗎嚇，好唔好啊？好啦，你阿 Sir， 咁點做啊 ？OK， 嗱，我哋要寫翻原先嗰個啊。This is the original, right? And 60. We need the same effect, meaning somehow we need to use a tax to make sure this becomes 45。我哋望望啦，由呢度45 then changes into here. How much tax do you need? Okay, in fact, it's going from $9 to $15. In fact, all you need is $6 of tax. 原來你要加6蚊稅。So in this case, you will see, this is a $6 unit tax, resulting in a $3 increase in price. Okay, 原來啊 the tax burden is shared by both consumer and producer. OK， 嗱 ，don't worry too much， don't worry too much。嗱，我哋寫埋其他，好嘛？嗱 ，so let's assume there is a $6 increase， $6 per unit tax. So here 40. OK, this one would be 由50啦，變成呢度嘅50啦 ，50。OK， 得唔得 ？So per unit tax goes like this。你見啦，難好多啊，係咪啊 ？It's much more difficult. Don't worry. OK, in case this may be still a little bit confusing to you, don't worry. In the next video, we are going to talk about tax burden in detail. You will understand very soon. 好啦，係咪仲有啊 ？Yes, one more page and we are done with this basics video. OK， 嗱，所謂 basic 已經好難啦，係咪啊？嗱 ，here let's see. This is the original. Again, let's mark it down. Original $30 80 units, right? 好啦， now let's see. If the government impose a per unit tax of $5 on the good， 好啦，佢話要啦5蚊雞。Okay, so let's see. Originally $20， 咦唔係喎 ，fix 咗添呢個。Let's see. You see something funny going on with the QS, right？ 見唔見到啊？有啲得意喎。80. No matter how much it is selling， 話知佢咩價 ，it is always staying at 80 units。喂，有啲得意喎，全部永遠撳喺80 units 咋。So what does that mean? It means that this supply is perfectly inelastic， 係完全唔識喐㗎，你見唔見啊 ？It is totally unresponsive, not responding to a change in price. Therefore, no matter how much tax you are imposing on the good, would QS change? Would supply change? No, it's not going to change. 會唔會變啊？點都唔會變啦。Therefore, we know that the new equilibrium price is not going to change. 冇得變啊 ，supply 都唔識喐 ，it's not moving, so it doesn't change. OK， 好嘛？嗱 ，final two questions here， 照舊啦。Remember, mark down the original will be $12. Here, $12, 500 units. 好啦 ，now the government impose a per unit tax of $4 on good eggs. $4. So let's try to change it. Okay, originally $10. I'm supplying 300 units. 而家啦 now you're adding $4 to me. Therefore, I need $14 to produce 300 units. Same, 400. You will see the new equilibrium would actually becomes $14, 300 units. Okay, so let's see total tax revenue. How do we calculate total tax revenue? 一樣啦 it's the per unit tax times the quantity transacted, in which would be $4 times here 300 units. So this is not the answer. 得1200啫，冇2000。Okay, total sales revenue will drop by this. Let's try. Okay, this 嗱又係啦，你見唔見又係 sales revenue 呢個字有問題㗎，又會。This is 600. Okay, 4200. Okay, now if it is saying before tax, okay, before tax, then this may be correct. Now again, it should have specified whether this is before tax or after tax. So let's leave it here. 我哋 B 咧留空佢先，好嘛？我哋留空佢先。Now C, demand is inelastic. How do you determine? 好容易啫，係咪？見到啦，600 to 6,000 to 4,000。好啦 ，total expenditure equals to P times Q。我哋見到啦 ，price has increased, but total expenditure has decreased. How to balance this equation? We need this quantity to change faster. So this is elastic demand. 佢話 inelastic. No, C is not correct. What about D? Total sales revenue of the substitute would drop. 我哋諗諗啦 substitute, right? Now, since our product price increased, QT dropped, like we mentioned, right? QT dropped. We know that since it is substitute, the demand for the substitute would increase. P increase, Q increase. 唔使問啦 revenue must increase. So this is also not correct. In fact, answer is B. But again, I think this is a very poor wording. It should have specified whether it is before tax or after tax. Okay, 好嘛？ Now one last question and then we are done with this basic video. Okay, 好嘛？ Now here we have the original situation. 照舊啦，係咪啊？ $5, 60 units. This is the original. Now impose a $2 per unit sales tax. Okay, so let's change the QS. Originally $2 selling 30. Now I need $4. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. This 2 go away. Okay, 好啦，我哋望下啦。Then the new equilibrium will be here. $6, 50 units. 好啦，嗱今次咧進步咗啦，3年見啦。Total sales revenue net of tax, which means we are going to calculate total expenditure minus tax. 我哋今次要減啦 ，equals to here 6 times 50 minus 好啦 per unit tax $2 per unit, and we are selling 50 units. So here let's see 300 minus 100. The answer will be 200. Okay, 好嘛 we will be having a total revenue of 200 after tax, net of tax. Okay, done that. So that would be the basic operation of per unit tax. Okay, now you see, even the basic is already much more difficult than the other intervention. Now for the next video, we are going to break down the total tax payment into consumer tax benefit and producer tax benefits. Okay, 好嘛？So I will see you again in the next video. See you very soon.